hear me?
Yes.
Welcome to Johns Hopkins SAIS. We have a very special guest today, the chairman of the Taiwan People's Party, former mayor of Taipei, proponent of a third force in Taiwan politics. So what I've invited Mayor Ke to do is just for a few minutes talk about his point of view and jump right into the questions. I should mention that we are at SAIS and our students have lots of questions. Okay, so
maybe you can jump to the Q&A. Okay. Oh. Okay, one by one.
Oh, this is. Well, sir, I'm surprising because even though this is the first time I'm asking questions this early, so. And also the fact that you have the full house really at this time of the semester really means how popular you are here. Yeah, so my question is, how do you see the role of a third force? I guess this is a general question to many systems, but how do you see the role of a third force in a largely two-party system? Who do you try to appeal in the upcoming elections? Like, who do you perceive as your base? Thank you.
就是跟您首先非常欢迎您啊，因为能够在这个期中考的时候，还有这么多人来，表示您是非常受到欢迎的。那么我们可以知道说，就是民众党其实是一个第三势力崛起当中的第三势力。那么其不仅仅是对于台湾的政治，任何的政治当中，对第三势力的这个出现都非常重要。那尤其是在两党当中，我想了解一下，就是在民众党这里，您希望在夹在两党当中，更希望跟哪一党有更多的合作？
在过去，我们常常有说，台湾有蓝绿两党嘛，政治上最安全的方法是这样。
So in Taiwan,
我们常常说我们在中间叫摆嘛，对不对？就是要这样。你要第一步先把其他两党先打成一组，然后说我跟他们不一样。
So this is how I see it in terms of balancing of the various powers. But I think in Taiwan traditionally we have blue and green, and in terms of political outplay, it is very important to categorize them together in some sense, so that you are unique and different from them.
所以通常第一步我在台湾我的宣传方式是这样，先问观众说国民党跟民进党有没有什么不一样。既然他们没有不一样，那他们就是同一组的。然后再下一句说我跟他们不一样。
So this is my logic. The first part of my campaign is to group blue and green parties together, so that they share some commonality in one sense, so that for me to stand out as something different, a white, is going to be completely different from them.
所以我的说法是这样的，我每次在演讲当中就问台下的观众说。请问国民党跟民进党有什么不一样？唯一的不同就统独意识形态。好 ，OK， 这个第一条。那第二条说，可是统独在现阶段在台湾都是不可能的，因为美国不会让台湾跟大陆统一，大陆不会让台湾独立，所以维持现状就是不得已的选择。所以意思就是说，民进党跟国民党两个都在胡搞瞎搞。
So again, going through my logic in the campaign, whenever I have to give a speech like this, I would ask my audience what are the differences between KMT and DPP. And basically a lot of people would say one is pro-independence, the other is pro-reunification. But the United States would never allow a reunification scenario to happen, and China would never allow independence to happen. So regardless which solutions and which preference both parties want, it's not going to happen. That's why the best solution is to maintain the status quo. And that's why actually in my view, none of them would be offering a viable solution in that sense.
最重要的是先说哈，他们那两个党都是 all party，we are new party。你看在这现实的世界哦 ，all 的总是比较负面，所以经过一番操作以后，你就变成我跟他们不一样，这样你才能够维持你的独特 unique， 才能够 survive， 甚至才有变 growth。
And it is also important in your political campaign to categorize those existing legacy parties as old parties. And the word old and legacy imply some sort of negativity. And that's how I can be perceived in my party, to be perceived as someone, a party that is pretty refreshing. And that's how we present ourselves. We have been able to present ourselves as a unique third force and to find room and space to survive.
Okay, next.
I'll take it over there, and then we'll come back on this side.
Hello, 柯市长又见面了。So I'll ask my question in Mandarin and in English for independently. So my question in English will be easy. Like, if being a Taiwanese is contradicting from being a Chinese, but 在华文语境下，就是做台湾人和做 Chinese 这两件事情是矛盾的吗？谢谢。
其实这讲到一个件事情哦，我觉得那个 Richard Bush 的那个讲法哦，也许是一个启发，就是说双重承认什么意思？你知道？我们要先说我们跟中国大陆哦，做台湾人跟台湾人跟中国人 at this moment 有相同的有相同的历史、语言、宗教、文化 ，but 你想想看哦，印度脱离英国，它是一种种族民族主义，因为印度人跟英国人长得就不一样，对不对？可是美国脱离英国统治，它是公民民主主义。所以这样呢，如果我们一开始就要开始否认说台湾跟大陆完全没有关系，我们就会跟这台湾跟大陆之间就说用中文来讲叫没得谈了。可是我们要这样说，所以在共同的基础上去凸显它的不同处。所以我觉得那是很大的启示，就是说，印度脱离英国的统治，这种是一个模式；美国脱离英国的统治是另外一个模式。你觉得在现阶段，你知道，如果台湾跟大陆有区别，你觉得是比较像印度模式还是美国模式？很清楚，是美国模式。所以我们要先讲，你看哦，英国人跟美国的线卡一样嘛，同样的历史、语言、宗教、文化，但是生活模式不一样，政治理念不一样。我倒觉得在现阶段，你知道，在处理台湾跟大陆之间哦，全盘否认会造成双方很大的冲击。但你总要说出 something different，otherwise you should be the unit together，unified together。所以这是一个逻辑。
To answer that question, I think I would invite all of you to read the book by Richard Bush, which talked about a concept that I think is very interesting, is double recognition, dual recognition. If you look at the current situation between the two sides across strait, we shared to a greater extent similar history, language, religions, and culture. And we look at a lot of similar separation issues in history between, for example, India from the United Kingdom. It was more of an ethnic nationalism that was called for or called upon at the time. And if you look at the American separation from the United Kingdom at the time, it was probably more of a based on the civil nationalism. And we draw the lessons from those two examples for all of us here in Taiwan from mainland China. We first have to look at what are the differences that we have between Taiwan and China, given there are a lot of similarities and commonalities across strait, in order for us to find our own story. And if we have to pick between the two models, I believe you will agree that Taiwan's situation with mainland China is very similar to the second model, the American versus the United Kingdom at the time, because we look similar, we have similar way of life, but we have a different belief or philosophy in our political systems. I don't think it would be realistic to deny all the existing similarity and commonality cross-strait, because by doing that, it's only going to create more conflicts. And yet, for any political campaign to be successful, you have to identify something that is different, so that we are not forced into reunification.
Next question. Over there.
我用中文提问好了。柯主席好，我是一个来自大陆海南岛的学生。然后我刚刚在复习你18年写的书，很多里面你讲了很多从你选举到在台北市政府里面很多进行的是一场新的文化运动，建立新的制度文化。然后我们现在看到新的台北市市长上任之后，改变了你之前很多新的制度。然后我就想，看起来这样的制度是不可持续的，很多还是依赖于人治而不是法治。你怎么样看待这个问题？
I'm a student originally from Hainan of China. Before I come here today, I actually intentionally tried to refresh my memory of some of the points you mentioned in your book in 2018, where you talked about your philosophy in creating a new cultural movement while establishing a new system or institution when you serve as a mayor in Taipei. However, we also see the new Taipei mayor seems to remove or have not been necessarily following the system and culture you established. So I wonder whether that's a sign that whatever we strive to achieve was more of a rule of a person instead of the rule of law.
第一点哦，不要期待一天可以改变这个国家，然后，但是你也不要期待你什么事都不做，这个国家自己会改变。所以回答你的话呢，其实8年的台北市长的确不足以让一个文化完全的 well established， 就同意。但是哦，我们中文有一句话叫“凡走过必留下痕迹”。所以这样呢，当你8年一个制度建立，后面要推翻它，他要花很大力气去推翻。那所以还是那一句话的，我在这个地方跟所有人再讲一遍，不可能一天改变这个国家，但是你更不要期待你什么事都不做，这国家自己会改变。所以说 keep going 才是一个很重要的 persistent keep going。所以每次讲说，对我来讲，不管是执政或者是选举呢，我们都要把它当做一个改变政治文化的社会运动 ，social movement。所以要一直，因为你会讲中文啊，你知道在我们以前我老师开玩笑跟我讲说，这个宣传至少要8次。我问他说哇，为什么8次？他说我们中文有个成语叫3令5申，所以加起来要8次 ，at least 8 times。
To answer your question, I don't think it's realistic to expect you can change a country or culture overnight. By the same token, if we choose not to do anything or not to take any actions, you will never change the environment, the culture, and the country. And of course, 8 years as mayor of Taipei are always too short. For any culture to be well established for a longer term. But I'm also optimistic in the sense that whatever path you have treaded, there will be footsteps and traces left behind. And that is what we are going after through our efforts. And we should never expect that you can take down an old legacy overnight. So if I have a few words to share, I would just say my motto is to keep it going and to be persistent. In any election, as I always said, is an opportunity for you to create a social movement, to change the political culture. But I remember one of my teachers always said to me, in order to create any change, you have to repeat it 8 times because in the Chinese idiomatic expression, you need to create 3 executive orders and to reiterate it 5 times. So 3 plus 5, I think 8 times is minimum to have it to be embedded.
Okay, question on the right, back here. The guy in the white shirt, yeah. You got a white shirt on.
谢谢柯主席。台湾的这个邦交国现在是越来越少，您认为台湾有什么方法可以来弥补这些损失，或者您认为台湾有没有必要和中国大陆来竞争这些外交关系？
我跟你讲，那些
As we have seen, Taiwan's diplomatic ties with some countries, the number of diplomatic ties have reduced dramatically. What is your countermeasures to overcome this situation?
我是医生哦，我用一个医生的这种比喻的，通常是这样的哦，一个 lab explanation 哦，做或不做呢，如果不会改变你的后面的治疗，这个检查就是不必要的。好，下一题，台湾多一个邦交国，少一个邦交国，你觉得对台湾现在有差吗？ So forget it.
I probably would use my a surgeon's logic to answer this question. For any surgeon, if you look at a particular medical procedures exam, whether you do it or whether you don't, is it going to change the outcome for this patient? If not, then probably this procedure or this exam is not going to be useful. So the same thing for Taiwan's situation in terms of the number of diplomatic ties that we have. Is it going to make a difference whether we have 1, 2, 3, or 5? If not, then it's never an issue.
Question in the back. Sure.
柯主席您好，我有2个问题。第一个问题就是今天我们在座的都是年轻人，很关心中国和两岸事务。然后我想请问您觉得有什么建议给到我们，能够用我们做一些力所能及的事情，可以促进到这个两岸的交流。第二个问题就是现在我们有一个很流行的词叫做政治性抑郁，也是因为从16年开始，不管是特朗普上台也好，蔡英文上台也好，给全球给区域的这个局势都造成了很多的困扰，让我们大家有时候听到一些不开心的事情感到很不开心，所以想请问柯主席有什么好的建议，让我们在生活当中能够避免产生这样的情绪？谢谢。
Basically, 2 questions. As you can see, we are predominantly young, highly educated audience here. We care a lot about cross-strait relations, and then we would like to pick your brain as to what you, in your view, we can do as a younger generation to facilitate the cross-strait peace. Secondly, since President Tsai Ing-wen and President Biden's administration in 2016, we have seen a new turn being coined, political new significance. But whatever moves or decisions made by Tsai or Biden's administration, they seem to create a lot of disturbance in people's mind. And what would be your advice in that sense to minimize that?
Answer your second question first. 那个，我的原则啊，我们 principle， 认真过每一天，快乐过每一天。那如果很困难，快乐过每一天，我们也要装着快乐的过每一天。你为什么要折磨自己，折磨别人？所以刚才在讲说。那你每天看到什么蔡英文的消息，你就不高兴？哎，不要看就好。
To answer your second question first, which is a principle I abide by also for my own life. I always tell people to live every day, and then to make sure you live every day in a happy manner. Even though sometimes that is not possible, you try to pretend that you live every day very well in a happy manner. And of course, some news can be disturbing to your eyes and ears when Tsai took the office. But then, if that's something pleasant to your eyes and ears, just don't listen. Don't watch the news.
那回答第一个问题这也是我当了8年台北市长以后，在政治哲学上最大的改变，就是说，我们要开始相信就是说，在这一点我倒是亚当斯密斯的信徒，就是说，每个人做好他的事情，合起来就国家最大利益。所以常常这样的do what you can do， 就是说，只要是对说两边的交流有关系的，你就愿意去做，这样就好了。事实上，每个人都 contribute 一些，你知道吗？合起来就是国家最大的进步。我不太相信说什么 breakthrough 啦什么，应该是一种 step by step、bit by bit 这种，我讲以前那个 Candy 印度的甘地，他说以前叫 mass production， 现在一个 new idea 叫 production by message， 所以众人每人进步一点点，合起来才是国家最大的力量。
So, to answer your first question, through my 8 years as Taipei mayor, what I've learned is to modify my philosophy and beliefs in politics. I would always go back to Adam Smith's theory that it is more important for each one of us to do our work well and to fulfill our duty before the collective good can be achieved. So this is my advice to everyone, that whatever you can and contribute any way you can before we can create the collective good for the country. And that's why I do not believe in major breakthrough. Rather, I believe in improvement little by little, bits and pieces on a daily basis. Gandhi once said that that idea of mass production, but I probably would twist that idea in the sense that your great productivity or production would eventually be achieved by the mass contribution.
Production by message.
But for production by
from
masses.
From mass production to production by message, this is a pretty ideal change.
So that's a major idea change.
Major idea
production by masses.
Okay.
Yes.
Next question, back in the right, Ava.
柯主席你好，我想问一个关于两岸关系的问题。中方在两岸交流的时候是强调九二共识，你要用什么样的政治基础来实现两岸交流？若不在这个基础上面，你要用什么样的政治基础？谢谢。
Hi, Chairman Ko. Question is about the cross-strait relations. For PRC side, the fundamental basis for engagement is 1992 consensus. What would be the political basis that you would apply in your future engagement with PRC?
两个回答，第一条9·2共识到底它的内容是什么？你知道吗？
For my first, I have two explanations to come back to you. First of all, I would ask anyone if they truly know the substances of the 1992 consensus.
你都不用先说，你的9·2共识是什么？
No, would you share with us your interpretation, understanding?
If she gets it wrong, she flunks my course.
就要到了。现在还是 A。
OK。
就据我了解，大陆方面和台湾方面，对9·2共识的定义是不一样的。大陆方面的定义是，就是世界上只有一个中国，但是台湾方面的定义是一中各表。
So, according to my understanding, the interpretation of 1992 consensus is different cross-strait. From PRC side, the belief is one China as the basis, and from the Taiwan side, it is one China as expressed in different terms or by different sides of interpretation. So there is a discrepancy there.
你还要回中国吗？
Before I answer, do you still want to go back to China?
我跟你讲，你说9·2共识就是一个中国，中国政府不会承认，为什么呢？因为我以前讲过，世界上没 没有人认为世界上有2个中国，所以一个中国不是问题，是后面还在说，在世界上只有一个中国，然后中华人民共和国是中国唯一合法代表，那台湾是中华人民共和国一部分，恐怕这才是大陆要的完整的9·2共识。你要说9·2共识就是一个中国，我现在就可以告诉你，我也同意啊。
It's very interesting. It's more of a fallacy. So if you look at the one China, according to your interpretation of mainly China PRC's interpretation of 1992 consensus, I don't think PRC would recognize that, because if it's one China, it doesn't even, the overall premises was wrong, because for any country, it's always one particular country. And that's why the actual interpretation for PRC's 1992 consensus should be Taiwan is always a part of one China. If you say one China, I think it's one China, but is that one China PRC or ROC?
那其实他讲到一个我们今天要澄清的题目，其实9·2共识，你知道哦，中国政府也没有很清楚的讲说它的 content。这才是最大的问题，所以老实讲哦，我是建议哦，中国也不要再坚持9·2共识，因为你也没有很清楚的讲出，你的到底内容是什么。还有一点呢，这是第一个问题。第二个问题，其实9·2共识在台湾已经污名化，这污名化怎么翻译？所以它很难在台湾推动。比方说啦哦，你要说。这个叫大便，你说这香的大便、漂亮的大便，问题它也是大便呢。
Yes, and the 1992 consensus by itself is not very clear. It's not very clear in terms of what is included and how it should be interpreted, and that's why by mentioning or referring back to 92 consensus itself is problematic. That's why I do not agree anyone should dwell on this 1992 consensus starting back then. And in Taiwan, on the other side, this term 1992 consensus has been smeared. It doesn't have a very good reputation. People think of it and they don't like it. It is almost like if you ask people, what do you think of the stool? What do you smell? There's no other answer. No one is going to say it smells good.
这个翻译翻得不太到底。他说，我们的 is good looking stool， 哦，it is。
Good looking stool. Okay,
it is still stool.
Okay, so whether it looks good or bad, the stool is a stool.
Okay, question up here in the front.
对，我这样有没有回答你的问题啊？
I hope I answer your question.
谢谢。
可是你就接受我的看法了。
I hope
而且还有一个问题，就是要是您这么说的话，就是您您会接受大陆所定义的9·2共识吗？
不是啊，今天最大的问题就是中国政府也没有很明确跟台湾说我的9·2共识是什么，他只是说9·2共识，他每次都讲9·2共识，但是它是 it's title only， it's no clear cut content， this is a big problem.
Yeah, so when there is the question is, would you accept the 92 consensus in PRC's terms? But then the answer is, it's simply it's a name and a term these days. If you don't know what the substance and content is, you don't know what you are agreeing or disagreeing to.
But what happens if the substance changes from Beijing's point of view?
那如果北京对这个9·2共识的内容有不同的解读，
不是啊
或者改变了，
不是。今天问题是北京政府要很清楚的讲说你的9·2共识是什么，就这样的，就这样，我们两个要买卖嘛 ，we make a deal, okay? You must know what it is before I pay for it. First of all, you must tell me what it is before I pay for it.
但是大陆的看法是你先投钱，然后我告诉你。
I'm not so stupid. I'm not so stupid. Well, of course, you must tell me first what it is before I pay for it. Now you ask me to pay for it first, then you tell me what it is. I'm not so stupid.
You're not a fan of blind box， 看来你不是很喜欢盲盒这种形式。我看您不是很喜欢盲盒这种形式。
对啊，盲盒，没有。It depends on the situation.
Let's do the next question.
Greeting, Professor Ke. I'm Benjamin Pan, a student graduated from Taiwan's Jiaxing Zhenji University, and I would like to follow Eva's question on your China policy. So, I believe that there won't be a fundamental change in the 92 consensus, either from Taiwan's side or from China's side. So, let's first get rid of the 92 consensus. And in your point of view, if you get elected as the president in 2024, what will be your fundamental principle to engage with China, since that you are a person pro status quo, and personally I believe that status quo is the best situation for Taiwan. But how exactly will you achieve the status quo situation with China? Thank you.
我是之前在台湾政治大学就读的学生，然后我想请问您的是您的对中的政策。那刚才我们已经讲过9·2共识的这个很多的这个问题。那么今天如果我们不管9·2共识的内容，2024年如果您当选的话，我想知道您与中国交往的这个基本原则会是什么？当然维持现状可能是最好的，可是您要怎么样做来实现这个维持现状的结果
Okay, be serious. Okay. 其实这样啊，比9·2共识更重要的是，到底两岸有没有 consensus to seek a consensus? Do we have consensus to find a consensus? Is the key problem. 如果两边都不想谈，后面都没有了。那所以大家讲哦，作为台湾的领导，如果说在台湾这边的领导人，他怎么去说服他的国民说，我们要不要跟对面那一边有共识，要还是不要？这是一个很困难。如果你没有办法说服说，我们能不能想办法跟他有共识？最起码要去追求有共识。如果我们都没有办法说服，坦白讲，后面都很难做。
I think what's more important than looking or dig deeper into 92 consensus is to find out whether people have enough considerations, concern to achieve or to find consensus cross-strait. And that is the willingness to find consensus between the two sides before anything can be achieved next. So the question within Taiwan is to perhaps ask whoever that leader is going to be, whether that leader, future leader and president of Taiwan, would want to use efforts to persuade its people to find or achieve consensus. If not, then everything after that is not going to be possible.
Question in the very back. Yep.
柯主席您好，然后我想换一个话题了，就是我想请问一下，您如果2024年当选以后，您和对美国交往的一些政策，比如说对台军售，还有就是台积电在美国这边建厂之类的问题，我有记得您之前说过，这个在美国建厂这个不一定符合全球的供应链的逻辑。待会还有一个更小一点的问题，但我想先听这个更主要的问题。
Question to Chairman Ke. If you were to be elected in 2024, I would like to find out your policies toward the United States, especially in two aspects, in terms of arms sales and TSMC's foundry in the United States. I remember you commented in the past that you feel that to set up a foundry for TSMC is not aligned with the principles and economics of supply chain. So I wonder if you can elaborate on those.
是这样的哦 ，The basic principle of politics is balance and check, balance and check. OK. Then 现在这样啊，台积电、台湾政府跟美国政府这三个的利益是不相同的。台积电的利益是什么？赚钱、永续 ，sustainable and make money。台湾政府在想的是说， 我如何拥有这个东西，可以增加我在国际上的竞争力或国际的重要性。美国在想的是，我不可以在这个领域让中国占到便宜，或是危害到我的国家安全，因为我拿不到，我晶片拿不到，会影响到我美国的国防的经济，所以这3个人的利益是不一样。所以老实讲哦，难就难在说 balance and check， 就是说你 how to find a balance among them。我觉得这样呢，谢谢。
I believe the key word to answer this question is check and balance, to balance and then check. If you look at this tri-party relations in TSMC, their interests are definitely not aligned. For TSMC, the goal is to make enough profit so the business is sustainable. For Taiwanese government, it is very important to keep its global competitiveness in semiconductor and to use semiconductor to ensure Taiwan capture a very important position worldwide. For the United States, it's very important for to have TSMC's foundry in the United States. So China, PRC, is not going to take advantage of the United States in this situation, especially in terms of a national security and defense. From the U.S. side, it's important that they secure the right chips for national security and economic development in the United States. So the interests are definitely not aligned, and the critical part to forge any cooperation is to find the balance of the three.
如果你考虑3方的利益，你觉得那个平衡点会是什么？要这样思考。我跟你讲哦，就我自己的判断啊，台积电从台湾搬到 Arizona， 成本要增加3倍，所以对台积电立场他已经不想搬了。那台湾的立场，哇，全部搬光也不行。那美国说你不搬也不行，所以我倒觉得是这样的哦，只有整个台积电在台湾的一部分 a part of it， 就是说 absolutely necessary for the United States defense requirement， 可能只有那一部分，你知道，就是说他那一部分搬过来，然后在这个要补助，因为他让成本增加3倍，他现在不想过去，那所以你只能把最 critical 的那一部分呢，就是说那对美国国防最重要，或是说他觉得他万一出事的时候，他绝对需要那一部分搬过来就，其他还是要遵守 market rule。所以哦，这也是从事政治里面哦最重要一点，就是说你要先把 stakeholder， 就是那个有关系的人先列出来，那每个人的利益是什么，那再 try to find the balance。这是在政治在思考的时候最重要的一个逻辑。
So it is very important to untangle the relations among the three parties to find out what you need to do to strike the balance, and for all parties to secure its own interest. For TSMC, the goal is to ensure that they are profitable, but the cost of setting up foundry in Arizona is already 3 times what it was when it was in Taiwan. And for Taiwanese government, they do not want to see Taiwan's technology to be hollow out through the relocation of technology or transfer